Hi everyone. So today I am having a go. I say the word having a go because I've not tried something like this before. So I'm going to try to have a go at making the Derpy Tiger from K-Pop Demon Hunters. So hopefully this is going to go okay, but if not, we're just going to give it a go and see. So I've already done the base here. There we go. So I've used like a core wool for this just to get the base going. And using a core wool basically is a cheaper version than using other wools. So this one is good for the base, the kind of inside. And then what I'm now going to do is I'm going to use the other walls, the coloured walls here on top to start decorating the facial features. So because the Derpy Tiger is got like a blue base, it's a slightly darker blue base, and then on top it's got light blue highlights. So I'm going to do the blue base first. So if you're brand new to needle felting, what you're going to need is the needle felt needle. So I have a needle felt needle here, which is a specialized craft needle, and a needle felt needle basically has little barbs at the bottom here. And what it does is while you are felting, so while you are poking the wool, then it catches the fibers at the bottom of the barbs and it meshes them together. So you need these special needles to be able to do this. You can't work with a normal needle, like a smooth needle at the bottom, because it won't work. You need those barbs to catch those fibers. And because we're working with these specialized needle felt needles, we also need a base. So you can see here I've got a brush mat. I also like working with a cushion. I'll just grab that. There it is. So I've got a cushion here as well, and that works. You can work with bits of polystyrene or like a foam board or something like that, like a foam mat. And it basically protects your table and it protects your needle as well. So when I am stabbing, I'm not going to hit the table with my needle, and then I'm not also going to snap the needle as well. So basically does a two-in-one job there. And you also obviously need the wool, and there's lots of different types of wools that you can get. I'm just using the leftover roving wool that I've got because I like to basically use what I have, recycle what I have, and I have lots of leftover roving wool from projects and from gifts from people, so I'm just using that up here. But there are better wools that you could use for this top bit, but this is just what I'm using here today. So those are the three things. So needle felt needle, a base, so a brush mat or cushion, and then your wool. And when you felt, you're basically going to do a up and down motion. You want to try and keep your needle nice and straight. So you're going in to your wool like this. So straight in, not too far. You literally just want to get the bottom of it where the barbs are straight down into the piece. I'm not going to push any further than that. It's very just light movements. I'm not pushing very hard, just very lightly in. And what it's doing is as it's going down into the wool, the fibers are catching and they start meshing together to make a shape. So it's going to start building it up and layering it on top. So I'm going to get a little bit more. Just leaving out the nose there in the middle. You can also work with multi-tools. So a multi-tool, multi-needle find one. You can get them in lots of different varieties. So they can look like this. And the multi-tool or the multi-needle tool basically has lots of needles inside of it, and then it's a quicker process. But I'm one of those weird people that I just like to work with a single one. Yes, it's not great for my hands because I don't have a handle on it. I can get a handle if I wanted to, but I actually just prefer working with the single needle there. Needle felting isn't a very fast process, so it will take a lot of time, especially if you want to make it a lot smoother and firmer the piece. It's going to take a lot longer, so you could spend hours and hours on this. You can get the initial shape quite quickly and very rough details quite quickly, but if you want it really lovely, super neat, very firm and very smooth, then it's going to take a long time to do. So just building up that colour on top. So I'm just layering the wool, ripping it up and laying it on top of each other. I don't normally recommend cutting it with scissors, only if you want to get a really blunt line, because if you get blunt lines it can be harder to blend. So I would only use it for very specific reasons. It's such a therapeutic craft. It's a lovely one to do. So if you've got anxiety or if you've had a stressful day, just sitting there, just using the needle, poking it through the wool is very, very therapeutic. That's why I absolutely love it. So I'm going to be doing several of these lives here. So even if you're not in the live while it's happening, afterwards you can still watch this and follow along as I'm building up the derpy tiger. So I'm going to try and do live streams on Thursdays and Sundays. So you can see that's beginning to build up that colour on top. And in terms of the needles that I'm working with in needle felting, there are different types of needles and they are called gauges. So there's different gauges for the needles, and you can find, this is just a selection of them, there are more. So the numbers here, so the lower numbers, are ones that you usually get started with. So when you're building up your shape and your sculpture, you'll be working with these here. So between 32 and 38 gauge, that's normally what I start off with, because those needles are a little bit longer, a little bit thicker, and they are for coarser wool. So really great for sculpting there. And then as you get higher up, these are for finer details. So the 40 and 42 gauge are better for finer details. So when you are adding the final details, so facial features, anything like that, I would recommend these because these needles are finer and a lot shorter. So you don't want to be doing any of the heavy lifting with these two here. The heavy lifting stuff is for the 32, 36 and 38 gauge. And then you also have these different varieties here. So the spiral star and reverse, and that just describes the kind of shape of the needle at the bottom itself. So again, these do different things. Quite an interesting one here, this reverse one, instead of pushing the fibers in, it basically pulls the fibers out. So if you want a really lovely kind of fluffy effect, really, really good for different like animal fur textures, the reverse is great for that. So there's lots of different gauges that you can play around with in needle felting, depending on what you're doing. But for me, when I started making this shape here, so when I actually sculpted the face, I was using the 32 and the 36 gauge just to start it up. But now I'm going in more with the kind of 40 gauge there. And if you've been watching my shorts and in those reveal videos, if you were guessing any of the K-pop Demon Hunter characters, this is tribute to you here. I love this character, so I thought I'd give it a go. So you can come in from the sides as well. Just try to keep the needle as straight as you can. And if you ever lose the shape, you can always go back in with a lower gauge needle and shape it a little bit more again. I'm going to do a little bit of blue as the base for the ears. So you can build the colours on top of each other as well. You can do the back, so you can flip it over and do the back. If you do flip it over, that's when I recommend having a cushion or a bit of foam or something like that, just to make sure that it's nice and soft, because these bristles can sometimes snag on the wool. If you haven't already, if you like this live or like any of my videos, I would so appreciate you subscribing or commenting. I'm trying to really grow my channel, so any engagement, any subscribers would be really greatly appreciated. You can always let me know what you'd like me to make next. So I am a fibre artist, so I mainly do needle felting, loom weaving, particularly circular loom weaving I really like, and macrame as well. I do dabble in other arts and crafts because I am a craft teacher, but those are the three that I really enjoy. So if there's any particular videos you'd like to see me make, let me know. Again, at any point, if you start losing the shape, you can always go back in with a lower gauge needle, and it does a bit more of the heavy lifting, so I can get that shape back again. So you can see just by doing this base layer, it takes a long time. Fantastic if you really want a nice chilled out session, and even if you want to come back to it, you don't have to do this all in one go. You can always come back to it. But it's not usually a quick craft. So I kind of keep on flitting in between the 38 gauge spiral and the 40 gauge, and the reason for that is just the spiral does a little bit more of the heavy lifting and the 40 gauge does a little bit more of the finer details. When you're needle felting, you want to think it will reduce down, so you want to think about how much wool you want, particularly to shape it to start off with, because it will reduce down. But you don't want to go in with a ridiculous amount because you can't easily peel it away and rip it away. The second you start felting, it really does start to mesh together. So if I was to try and peel this away now, I would just start breaking my piece. So you can always add more wool and build it up, and that's what I would usually recommend. So if it does get a bit too small for your liking, you can add some more onto it, but you can't really take away. I find it just rips your lovely needle felting. I also like to go over areas a little bit more firmly with my needle, going over and over and over again. And what that does is it starts making it even firmer. It can make like little dips in your piece, which can be really nice if you want to give a little bit more form to it. So if I want the kind of dent inside the ear, can you see that little shadow now casting? Because I've gone in with my needles several times in this area here, and it just makes it firmer and it pushes it down. So I've got a bit more of like a divot in there, and it gives it more of a realistic look. So I'm just going to keep on going over that because that's where I'm going to make the kind of pink inside the ear later on. So I want it just to start kind of casting a shadow. I'm going to add a little bit more blue because some places look a little bit patchy. So I'm ripping the wool as I work with it. So the more you work it, the neater and smoother it's going to be. But like I said, this could take hours to do to make it really, really super smooth. And if you are watching this after the live and enjoy what I do, I also do a podcast and it's called Not Weave Stitch, and I talk all about fibre arts. So if that's something that you really enjoy, it's nice just to have on in the background if you're crafting, and I give lots of helpful tips and tricks. We talk about crafting, I give crafting inspiration, I talk a little bit about my background as well. So take a look at Not Weave Stitch podcast. It's always annoying in needle felting. You really have to trust the process because at first it looks really rough. But the second you start adding more of the details on and the little facial features, it really begins to build up and comes to life. So I'm going to add a little bit more blue to the sides, and then I think I'm going to start mapping out the eyes. So like I said, this is going to be over several live streams, building this up. So if you wanted to recreate this, if you have, you can do this with roving wool, but I'd recommend more like core wool if you have that. But you can do it with roving wool as well. And just wrapping it up into more of a tight bundle and then starting to felt it into shape, into like a cat-like head. So normally I would go over this more, but I can always do that later on. I'm going to start trying to map out the eyes. So I'm going to do that with some black wool here. And I find doing facial features is always the trickiest part, particularly if you're wanting to do something very realistic. I find it very tricky to do, so take the time if you are doing any lovely details on top. So I'm going to go now with a 40 gauge, that finer needle, and I'm going to use a small amount because it's always better to start kind of smaller, like I said before, and then I can always add more detail. So I want to try and start mapping out the eye. The tiger's got quite large eyes. So I'm going in a lot more slowly now. Just trying to very gently map this out. I could go in with the colours straight away, but I'd like to get this like black base first, and then I can do the colours on top, so it has like a yellowy red eye to it. So I'm just mapping this out. Just trying to get it symmetrical. That's the tricky part. If you do have any little fibres that stick up, the main way of getting rid of them is just keep on working at it until all the fibres are in. But if it's still proving really difficult, you can get that clothes like bobble remover. It's like a little kind of shaver that you can run over this, and it basically snips away at any of the loose fibres that you may have. Right, now trying to get this the same. Here we go. So same thing again, just taking a little bit of the black roving wool. I like to do the outlines first, just roughly with my needle. Because now's the time. If it's not quite right, I can still fix it at this point. But when I start felting it more, that's when it's going to get more difficult. At the moment, it looks absolutely terrifying. This is why I say trust the process. Take your time with it. And if it doesn't look great when you finish, that's fine. It's all about learning and making mistakes. We can't get better if we don't make mistakes, because then we don't know how to fix problems. So I think it's actually a really good thing, even though I'm a perfectionist and it does drive me mad if I make a mistake. It's the only way we're going to learn. So now it's about trying to get this as symmetrical as possible. That's actually looking decent-ish. It's always really difficult to do, particularly on the camera, to try and see around it to make sure that it's looking good. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. Okay. So again, doesn't look like much at the moment, but we need to get this base before we can go in with the details there. Apologies if you can hear my dog. He's having a strop because he can't be in the same room as me. Okay. So I'm also going to do the little dots down the head. So he has 3 little dots down his head. And what you can do is rip a small piece of black wool, and then I literally start rolling it in between my fingers. because that will make it into a ball. And again, you only want to do a very small amount. You can always add more to it. So you can see there. Again, I'm going in with the higher gauge, so a 42 gauge. And I'm just going to use the needle very carefully, pushing it in. I'm going to do that 2 more times. I'm talking hardly anything here. We don't want very much at all. And if you feel like it's too much, you can always try it again. Just very, very small amounts. So again, just use my fingers there to roll it in between. And then very carefully pushing it in. So I'm going to do 1 more. There we go. So it's now got the 3 little dots down the centre of the head. So I'm just going to neaten this up a little bit now. And I'm going to add the pink inside the ears for this session, and then in the next one I'm going to add even more details onto it. So he's got these beautiful markings, so black markings along the head. He's got some lighter blue details as well, which I'm going to be doing, and I will also start doing his eyes as well next time. But you can see just in less than an hour, doesn't feel like much there, but we need to just slowly build it up. So I'm going to use some pink wool Again, just ripping bits away. I like to layer it up. And then I'm going to pop this in the little divot of the ear, basically making like little triangles. So just building up inside the ear. It's probably coming out very white on this, but it is a pink. I could go in with a darker pink on top if I wanted to. I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other ear as well. Feel free, if you've been watching this, let me know in the comments what your craft is, what you really enjoy doing, what relaxes you. Have you tried needle felting before? Let me know. If there's a particular video that I can make to help you, feel free to let me know in the comments. If you're not sure about making the shape, you can always get polystyrene bases. So you can get them in different shapes and then work on top of polystyrene if you prefer. And that basically gets rid of the inner part of it. So if you don't feel confident making a shape, you can get polystyrene in different shapes. And then you don't have to do the core part of it. You can just do the detail on top. So you can make this into a lovely little pin to stick on your bag or put in a jacket. You could turn it into a keyring as well. That could be really, really cute. Keyrings are definitely in at the moment. just going to smooth this out a little bit more. You see it's still a little bit fluffy, so this is what I mean, that you can carry on working it and working it. There are some wools that are a lot smoother and you get a much neater finish to it. So things like a merino wool, very, very smooth and lovely finish, but it can be quite difficult to work with as a beginner. It can be a little bit more difficult to felt, but it gives a really nice, neat finish. Hi, thanks for joining. Apologies if you can hear my dog. So I'm just doing the base of the Derpy Tiger from K-Pop Demon Hunters. I am obsessed. So I'm just doing all of the base before I go into any of the details. So in the next stream, I'm going to do more of the markings and the eyes. I'm from the UK, so I'm from just south of London. Whereabouts are you from? What crafting do you do? Let me know. Oh, India, cool, nice. Are you into your arts and crafts as well? Do you do anything? So I'm just layering up at the moment. And I'm still using the 40 gauge, between the 40 gauge needle and the 38 gauge needle. I'm going to add a little bit more blue to some of the patchier areas. So for anyone who is joining, I'm doing the Derpy Tiger from K-Pop Demon Hunters. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm just trying to get my channel really to start growing at the moment because I absolutely love doing fibre art and teaching people as well, because I'm also a craft teacher. I find it so therapeutic with my anxiety. It really, really helps to relax me. So that's how I got into it. With all the COVID lockdowns, this is what kept me sane. go. So I'm going to leave it there for this stream, and I'm going to start to build it up in the next stream. So I'm going to be doing more of the details. So I'm going to do more of the black markings that he has above the eyes, and I'm going to build up on the eyes as well. So like I said, he has this kind of yellowy red eyes. So I'm going to build the yellow and the red up, and then I'm going to do the pupil detail as well there next time. And then I'll see how I go. I might do a little bit more, start working on the ears a little bit more, but I'm going to definitely do the markings and the eyes next time. So thank you to anyone who has watched this stream or is watching it afterwards. Like I said before, if you love crafting, I have a podcast called Knot Weave Stitch, and I talk about all things fiber arts. So if you want to get into the fiber arts, or if you're a beginner in the fiber arts, feel free to listen to the podcast, and I give lots of tips and tricks and information on there. So feel free to have a look at that. I also obviously have lots of other videos on here, lots of shorts to get you started in the fiber arts, particularly in needle felting, loom weaving and macrame. So any support on that, any comments, any likes is so appreciated, because this is my very first live stream and I'm really trying to get this off the ground. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.